Hey again. Today I'm going to be making a recipe called Little Beefies. Now this recipe has been in the family for well over 50 years. I ate it when I was a kid. I've been making it ever since I've been married, so for the last 35 years or so. It seems to be a family favorite. I talked to my mom about where this recipe came from. She said she thought it came out of a Betty Crocker cookbook. I have a 50-year-old Betty Crocker cookbook in my possession, and this recipe is not in there. At least I couldn't find it. My wife did a little Google search yesterday. She found something that was similar, but I couldn't find it on the internet myself, so I don't know where it came from. It's sort of a sweet and savory type thing. Everybody seems to really like it, and if there's anything else I want to tell you about as we go along, I will mention that. But for right now, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll give the ingredients as we go, and I'll put those in the comments once the video is done. Here we go. Okay, so for this recipe, I start out with a 1.5 pounds of hamburger. This is a 80-20. If you get like a 70-30, it's going to get very oily. All that fat's going to cook out. I found that if I use like a 90-10, seems a little dry to me. But if you don't mind that, or if you want to be really healthy, you can make this with turkey. My oldest son, I recall talking to him about it, and they're big on using the ground turkey at their house, so that's what he uses. So 1.5 pounds of hamburger, 3/4 cup of just plain old Quaker oats. I use about a teaspoon of salt. Looks pretty close. Maybe a little more. Okay, salt. The recipe calls for a 1/2 cup grated cheese. I like the cheese in it, so that's probably more like a cup of grated cheddar. It takes 1 egg. Preferably no shells. And 3/4 cup of milk. Last ingredients is about a 1/4 cup of chopped onions. So I chopped them fairly fine. And I also like a little extra onion, so I'm not trying to go short on the onion at all here. So that's pretty fine. And that's probably more like 1/2 cup, but the recipe here is more of a general guideline rather than a perfect thing that you have to do. So I just washed my hands so they're good and clean, and you just get in there and knock it together. I don't know if you could, I don't own a food processor, so there may be other ways to do this. Some people might want to use a spoon. Maybe you like to use gloves. I don't know. I just get in there and do it. So just get it really nicely incorporated. Make sure that all your onions are sticking in there and your cheese is stuck into the meat. You don't have piles of inconsistency here. This is a real quick and easy meal. I'm going to put these things together here pretty fast. So out of this, I'm going to get about 5 individual meatloafs. So at this point, you just take some, form it up about the size that you think would be a good individual serving. And usually what I do, I'll kind of do this, and if one of them's a little bigger than the others, you can just pinch some off and move it around. So Be sure to, if you want to make this really easy, which that's always what I'm looking for, be sure to put some foil on your pan. This, because of the amount of fat in the meat, quite a bit's going to leak out on the pan, and it's going to be hard to clean and kind of messy, where if you got that foil on there, it's going to make it real quick and easy. There, pretty fast. So I'm going to go away for a second, wash my hands, and then we'll finish this up. Okay, all clean. As I was cleaning up, I was thinking another advantage of these smaller loaves, it's pretty quick to cook. So it takes about 35 minutes in a 350-degree oven, so pretty fast. So you could totally put this whole thing together and have it done in 45 minutes. So that's how quick it is. So the next part of this is we're going to make a topping. I have half a cup of ketchup. Got about maybe a tablespoon and a half of brown sugar. And about a tablespoon, a little more of mustard. Just regular yellow prepared mustard. Mix these together real good. Funny thing about this, I used to make this for my mother-in-law, and she loved this recipe, but she hated mustard. You could not get her to eat mustard. So one time she busted me putting mustard in this thing, and I played it off like, no, that was for something else. I didn't put that on the little beefies. But she always ate them. She always loved them. And God bless her heart, she never asked me about the mustard after that. I think she realized that mustard was okay in some things. So you just spread this over the top of these. It gives you kind of a, like I said earlier, like a sweet and savory. So the little beefies themselves, you know, it's just kind of like a regular meatloaf with cheese in them. And this gives it a sweet on top of it, and something I really like. And I think if you try it, you're gonna love it. I'm gonna roast some vegetables to go with this, and we'll see you back in about 35 minutes. I'm gonna stick this, as I said, in a 350-degree oven for 35 minutes. So we'll be right back. Okay, just like that, we got us a nice dinner. Little beefies were done. Took about 40 minutes. I like them to start looking like they're browning a little bit, so you don't want them to be rare in the middle. My wife roasted up some vegetables. We chopped up some yellow squash, zucchini, and sweet potatoes. So we'll dish that up. Threw some spices on them. Olive oil, you know, all the traditional stuff. Roasted them, threw them under the broiler for a little bit. So got a little char on them. They look great. Try one of these sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. Like perfect food. Lots of fiber. Supposed to be good for you, right? Anyway, this is supposed to be about the little beefy. Here we go. Super moist. Super tender. You can see those onions in there. The cheese you really don't even see. It just sort of melts through the meat. So moist. You get that brown sugar and a little bit of tang from the ketchup. The onions are just awesome in there. Should give this one a try. I've made a few recipes now. I think they're all worth doing. This is definitely something you want to treat yourself and your family to. So get out there and cook.